Okay, YouTube, so I'm going to do the birth video. I was kind of like, my train of thought started going to like the very end, like the birth story, and I was like, wait, I'm gonna stop and just do the actual birth video instead. So if you were just watching my previous video, so what I was getting into is, okay, the birth story. So towards the end of the pregnancy, I was having all of these ultrasounds, and they were watching the babies, and especially baby B, because they wanted to make sure that she was still growing properly. So then what ended up happening was I was really starting to lose my patience with all the symptoms at the end, and there were a lot of times that I was crying. Like, I was so uncomfortable, and I just can't imagine people who have more than 2 babies. I cannot imagine what they feel like and how they feel and whatever. I remember them measuring me and telling me you're at like what a normal 40-week pregnancy would be at like 33 weeks. That's why at like that time I really felt so much pressure, and I kept thinking, I feel like they're coming, and I feel like they're almost here. And it was because the amount of pressure that was already on my body was very similar to like a full-term 40-week pregnancy of 1 baby. So I was really having a rough time, and I just kept telling my husband, I was like, I don't know, like, I'm not gonna make it to May. I kept telling him, I was like, I'm not gonna make it to May. And I kept telling everybody, I was like, the babies are gonna be born in April. And right around I had to try and make it to 36 weeks. After 36 weeks, if anything happened, if my water broke or anything, and the babies were in the correct position, I could try and have a normal birth. I wanted to try and have a normal birth from the beginning. But they started telling me throughout my pregnancy, they started talking to me about how normally during a twin pregnancy, they really encourage you and very highly push you to try and have the epidural, because if anything were to happen and you were to need an emergency C-section, you've already got the epidural in, and they could administer the medicine and turn it up and get you prepped for an emergency C-section super fast. Sometimes I still didn't understand why, for example, if you were trying to have a normal, I think I did understand, I think they finally did explain to me, but sometimes it still like gets really fuzzy in my head. They were telling me that if I didn't have the epidural and I were to need an emergency C-section, that they would not be able to give me a spinal tap. And I didn't understand that. And then they were telling me that they would have to put me under general anesthesia because they wouldn't have enough time to potentially administer the spinal tap. And I'm thinking the whole entire time, but I thought the spinal tap is super fast. And like you put it in and it's like immediate. And I guess not. I guess it takes like a couple of minutes. And if there were truly an emergency, a couple of minutes is already a couple of minutes too much. So that what they would have to do if I didn't want the epidural during a normal birth, that if an emergency were to happen, that I would potentially have to be put under for them to take out the babies. That's how I understood it. Now, if that's accurate, or if that's, I'd like to know if other people have come across this issue and how their twin pregnancies have been and their twin births have been. Because I don't know anybody else that's had twins. So personally, I can't speak to anybody else who's had twins. And this is something I will post possibly to my twin mommy support group and find out other birth stories or YouTube it or whatever. But I haven't had a chance to really find out what other people's experiences have been. So my experience was that they were really telling me throughout the whole pregnancy that I was going to have an epidural if I was doing a natural birth. And believe it or not, that's the #1 thing that scared me the most out of the whole pregnancy. I wasn't afraid of the surgery. I wasn't afraid of the cutting part and the moving all the organs and all that gross stuff and all that scary stuff. I was terrified of a needle in my back. And because I am needle phobic. And I'm okay with them taking out blood. I've dealt with that fine. I had never experienced, I'm gonna detail it a little bit in a couple of minutes here. I had never experienced really big needles like that, and I had really bad experiences as a kid, and that's where the problem came from, is that as a kid I had really horrible experiences where they had to hold me down, they had to tie me down, and I almost even like gave shots to doctors because of how much kicking and moving around I was doing when they were trying to give me shots as a kid. So I had really negative experiences. I had real terrifying dreams, and I think part of it became when I started learning as a kid about them killing people by injection, lethal injection. That crap just scared me and just messed up my head. And I'm telling you, there are some things that I hope I never have to tell my daughters, because I really don't want them to ever have certain fears about certain things, because this one was terrifying. I mean, imagine as an adult now in the future, if I ever have to have surgeries or whatever, I'm still not fully prepared. Like, I'm still not fully over the whole needle thing. So everyone kept telling me, my mom especially, she's like, it's not that bad. And I spoke to a lot of people about the epidural. I spoke to people more about the epidural than I did about anything else. Everyone that I could ask, I asked, did you have an epidural? How was it? And I was against it, because I wanted to try and have as natural an experience as possible. I really felt like this is a God-given gift for me to be a woman, to have a body, to be able to carry a baby and have birth, and to feel what God wanted us to feel, because I feel like it strengthens you as a woman, and it's the most powerful transcendencing experience that you can have. To have something for 9 months growing, moving inside of you, and then all of a sudden it just, you being able to push it out and you see it for the first time, what you've been waiting to see for months, is just, to me, the most amazing idea. And then that you can do it by yourself, and that you can push through that pain, and then your reward is this beautiful crying, moving, wiggling thing, is just amazing. It moves me to tears sometimes thinking about the whole process, how 2 tiny little cells end up creating this amazing thing. And I was raised Catholic. I'm just gonna go into this for a minute. I was raised Catholic, and I do not like or follow everything in the Catholic Church, but I do believe that there is something out there, because there is no way that I feel like there's no way for me that there can exist such an amazing thing like life and giving birth, and humans and people being born and being created in such a perfect system. It is such a freaking perfect system. The body knows what to do. It grows this little tiny baby inside of you, and it's just, you wrap your head around it and you're like, this is amazing. How is there not something spiritual connected to this, you know? And so that's just my personal feelings. So I'm gonna do this video in sections. So this is kind of my first section, and kind of why I kind of ended up having to have a C-section, because the baby, all of a sudden, at 36.5 weeks, I went in for an ultrasound one day, and they said it doesn't look like, it looks like she slowed down in her growth. But they didn't tell me anything during the ultrasound. They said that everything looked fine. 2 hours later, I got a call, and they said tomorrow morning they've got to come out. And I said, why? What happened? What did you see in the ultrasound different? Like, how come, like, 2 hours later, you're now freaking me out, calling me that it looks like there's something wrong with the baby? And this was on April 23rd. So I was like, I knew it. And it was so funny, because the week before, they had scheduled me for my C-section for May 5th. And when they scheduled me for my C-section for May 5th, I was crying. I said, there's no way I can make it to May. Are you kidding me? 2 more weeks? 2 more weeks. Because basically, they don't let you go past 38 weeks. So at 38 weeks was the maximum for twins, usually. Very few places let you go. Hi, baby, hold on. I know, it's just Daddy's blocking the driveway. Hold on a second, okay? Hold on. They don't let you go past 38 weeks. So, they were telling me that was my 38 weeks was May 5th. And I'm like, there's no way I can go 2 more weeks. At that time, I was in the middle of 35 weeks. I was like, oh my God, there's no way. 2.5 more weeks. And my husband kept telling me the longer they stay in there, the better. The more they keep growing. So my next ultrasound at 36.5 weeks, I was crying to the doctor. I said, I don't know. Is there any way that you can talk to the doctor? I am falling apart here. I don't know if I can make it. And they kind of were like, well, what do you mean you don't know if you can make it? Like, you kind of have no choice. As long as they're fine, they have to stay in there, and your C-section is planned for May 5th. And 2 hours later, I get a call that they got to come out the next day. So I was like, I went into hyperdrive mode. I called my husband, I called my parents, and I was like, the doctor just called me, they're going out tomorrow. And I was actually at work. I was still planning on pushing myself to work until the end of the week. And I had been slowly taking days off and time off and everything, but I'm just so focused on work all the time that I was like, no, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going until the very end, because I gotta keep trying to make money as much as I can, because I'm not getting paid during my maternity leave. I have to put in for disability. So I was like, I just gotta try and keep making as much money as possible, and because I knew I was gonna need it. And so basically, by that night, I'm gonna really go into the second part of the video, and I'll talk more about kind of everything that happened time-wise, to really document the actual birth story. But basically, I was in overdrive. Let me tell you, in overdrive, because it's just, you know, what happened from 2 hours before them telling me, no, everything looks good and you're still scheduled for May 5th. Then 2 hours later, it looks like the baby is starting to slow down her growth. We gotta get her out. So, anyways, that's it for this video, and I will do another one as soon as I can on their birth story. Thank you. Bye.